Do you ever get frustrated with watercolor landscapes? Maybe you paint flowers or animals, and now you're trying to do more realistic, naturey stuff, but it's not turning out right. So I like to share with you guys little tips and tricks on my landscapes, and the one thing that I'm sharing today, in addition to setting a timer, is another little quick secret that I do that helps to loosen up my watercolor landscapes. I'm excited to paint this mountain scene with the lake with you, so let's get to painting. Okay friends, so I have taped down the edges of my paper so that I have a nice border. Once this is all done, it's going to be great. Here's a sample of what I'm following that I did, I don't know, a couple years ago, I think. So today you'll need your watercolor paper, of course, the tape if you would like it, and then I've got my watercolor paints. I've got different brushes. I like to use a flat wash. If you don't have one, just use a round, and then I've got a number 6 for details. For tiny details, I've got this liner, but you can just use a really thin brush like a number 2. We've got the jar for water, and then we've got our paper towel for dabbing. And then I've got some white gouache. So this is that white paint to help us add some highlights into the water. If you don't have it, that's okay. You can just leave more white space on your paper. And then a pencil to rough sketch in what we're doing today. So we're gonna get right into it. And we're gonna start sketching in that waterline. And I know you're here for what's the big watercolor secret that I love to share with people and use. So before we get started, I'm gonna check the time. All right, so in about 15 minutes, so at 25 after, is when I'm shooting for ending. That's one tip or secret, I guess, that I have shared on this channel before. But the other thing, the big thing for me, is to use a large brush. And that, ladies and gentlemen, let's do the waterline here, is what really helps myself to paint quickly and to loosen up. Let's do our mountains here, the crevices and the crags, and we'll just kind of put in some marks where we want those to go. You'll notice that those lines are always diagonal, kind of going from the top, going down and diagonally. And so we're not going to do a ton of detail in this. We want it to be a loose painting. But I do like to sketch it out so that I have the placement down. It gives me more confidence when I'm creating something. And then some distant mountains. Okay, so we're ready to get started with the painting process. I've got the large brush and I'm gonna dip in, make sure it's totally clean. I don't wet the paper first, but I just swirl around, grab some beautiful paint, and I just start in with my layer. I can grab some darker blue if I want to put that in at the top, but I'm just bringing it down and I'm going to just use the side of that brush to just paint around this sketch. Now, if you paint into the mountains or whatever, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. Nothing bad's gonna happen. It's just gonna be fine. Plus, I don't think you'll even see it with how we're gonna darken things up. So there's that. I painted everything the same color. I'm gonna go swirl my brush around and grab more of that dark paint and then darken up the top here. Just skid it around the page, just kind of skipping around, adding in that streakiness that you might see in a sky. Now I'm just gonna let it dry how it is. We can always come back and add more color if we want. I just want this to be very basic, like nothing fancy or special about it. Just is what it is, okay? So now we're gonna do the water. I guess I didn't have to clean the brush, but I'm gonna go in with some of those blues, some of those kind of turquoise colors. And we're doing that first layer. So we're just going to, again, flat wash, go around here and just kind of move the brush around. I like to leave a little white space if you want for some natural highlight. You can kind of go twist it this way, so that you're kind of getting some of those lines that are just not stick straight, but they kind of ebb and move and flow. Let's grab a different color and go in there. Just like, I don't want you to think too much about it. Just put the color down. Just play with the color. There's some green. This is a lake scene and we're just trying to have fun. We're not going for realism, we're going for loose and quick and self-care, as I always say. you don't have any bigger brushes, maybe it's time to try to get some bigger brushes. I'm going to get some more concentrated color here, wet on wet, and I'm just lightly holding this brush and just kind of light pressure, just skidding around. I don't know if that's actually the right word, but just putting in a little bit of color here and there. I'm actually going to clean the brush right now, dab it so it's just damp, and then I'm going to spread out those edges so that they're softer. I don't want them to be kind of feathery as they're doing right now when they start to spread wet on wet. So just a little extra color there. And if you've never done a landscape before, congratulations, it's a big deal. It's fun to learn new things. I like to say that. And it's good to learn new things. So now we've got that brush. We're going to grab this yellow ochre. We're going to put in that sand color here. This is just the base color, you guys. So you can move quickly. Don't be too worried about where the marks go. The base color is just putting, placing things down where you want them to be. And honestly, this is just the ground. And so I'm going to grab some brown. I'm going to take some water and spread some of this color out. Get around this part. I promise you really don't need to worry. So now where the white spaces is, that might be a good place to add in wet on wet, more concentrated paint. So the brown here. So I'm just gonna dab the brush. Like maybe you're creating some hills, or maybe the wetness where the water is, darkening up that part as well. If this video is too fast, you can always slow it down with the speed, changing the speed on this YouTube video, and just try and get at your own pace. All right, so we've got that in. Now we're going to go with the mountains. So I've got some beautiful sap green here, and I'm actually trying something different. I'm gonna go it's sort of semi-dark. It's kind of a medium value, and we're not gonna go super light. First of all, we're just gonna go in, popping in some color, maybe missing some spaces so that we can fill in some color, a different shade of green somewhere else. Let's try that over here too. Just tapping it in. Maybe you're just doing really thin brush strokes in some spaces. And let's see, let's add in maybe a darker green. So I'm gonna mix some of my navy, my dark blue. It's called Payne's Gray if you have Winsor Newton. And then I'm going to take that, dab the brush so it's not too watery, and just add in some of those marks. I don't want the mountains to be, too pronounced. They're just kind of hanging out there. Mixing some colors, playing around with it. Cleaning your brush, okay? We're gonna now dab it. Checking the time here. We're all right, we're doing all right. Just do a little bit of blending. I'm actually going to take this really nice yellowy green and add some of that in here too. So you see, I'm working fast, so my brain is not having time to slow down and think about, am I doing this right? Am I doing this correctly? It's am I having fun? Let's grab some brown. Pretty concentrated, okay? Again, we don't want that. There's a lot of liquid, too puddly. Dab your brush. A little bit of brown. Wet on wet when you're adding it in. If it's already wet paint down there, you got wet paint down on the paper, then you're putting wet paint on top, and that's wet on wet, or wet into wet. Add some more here on your beach scene. Just play with the colors. See what happens. And the worst thing that could happen is you hate it. Let's blend some of this. And you throw out the painting. And what's the best thing that could happen? You find new skills that you love, you embrace them, and you use them again. So those are, it's a win-win. Either way, you learn what you like or what you don't like. And I like how this is bleeding into this. It's kind of creating either some reflection, or maybe that's part of the rock that's going into the water. So I like that. I'm just gonna spread that out a little bit. How are you feeling? We're gonna do the background mountains now, and we're gonna do just that light bluish green color, lots of water mixed in. So this whole process, it looks actually gray, which I think is great too. This whole process it might just be a little bit new for you, but it's, if you're painting something new, then you pat yourself on the back. I'm doing something new for me. And if it's something you've done before, maybe it's a little different style, and you're just figuring out how you feel about it. But I'd like to know in comments too, and also, well, let me know if you like the big brush, if you like smaller ones in comments. But also, if you haven't hit the like button and you're liking this video, please hit the like button. It lets me know that you're having a good time and that other people then will learn more about the video, the more likes it gets. All right, swirl, swirl, swirl. And also subscribe so you don't miss out, dab there, in the future videos. All right, so I'm just darkening up this edge right there. And then also this edge right here. And this edge right here. Dark, dark, dark. Okay, that's enough detail for that. For this one here, you know, I'm kind of liking what's going on. I think I want to darken up the edge. So grabbing concentrated paint. I have about 5 minutes left. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And I'm just going to dab, 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 dab. A little bit of shadow here. Maybe it's shadow, maybe it's the water moving. I don't know. Who's to say? And then just like a little bit extra, just flitting the brush around. Some movement, some movement. Not too much though. I don't want to overwhelm things. So I'm going to clean the brush. And if there's any spaces where I don't like the line, like over here, it's a little bit weird, I can just blend it out down here and just kind of carry it downwards, out, just like that. And this is a little stagnant, so I'm just going to scrub it, and I was able to blend that in. I think that's nice. I like the wet on wet effects that are happening here. Feel like I need a little bit of brown over here, so just adding that in, and then just having a little bit of texture. I never know exactly what I'm gonna do, but until I start to do it, you know. So it's you know, leading yourself in intuition and trying to figure out what do you feel like you want to add in. Let's put in a little bit of brown here to define some edges. I'm using very concentrated brown, so I can just do wet on wet. It's starting to show up more just because things are drying. And so it's not as sloppy. There we go. All right, and you can even just do some random shapes sometimes. That can be fun. Just gonna go ahead and blend a little bit of that out. And now I'm gonna dry it, and then we'll put in our grasses for that final detail. All right, taking this lovely liner brush, making sure it's clean enough. And again, I need to refill my greens, but adding in my sap green to my palette mixing part here, and then also some of that dark blue just to make it really dark, make it really thick, so we can just hopefully get away with one layer with our details. How am I doing on time? Doing well, doing well. So just flick marks here to create some really thick grasses, or thick bunches of grasses. I can make them pretty long because this is the foreground. I always like to have something like grasses or trees or flowers in my paintings. I find that, you know, in the foreground, it just really helps with interest. You can just kind of do scratchy marks too. Something to look at, you know, something to look at and think about and talk about. And then that gives us more of those details. Versus putting so much detail into other places. So I could have put less detail into some spaces, but you know, that's a whole conversation for another time of how to create your art. But for me, I really enjoy like trying to find those focal points, right? So as I'm darkening this up, I'm liking that. The other piece I want to do real quick is use my white gouache. So if you have gouache, you can do this. If you don't have it, it's okay. It's not necessary to utilize. So what I'm going to do is actually take the cover of a little cover that I have, and then put some white paint there. I don't want to mix it here. It's going to get mixed into other things. And make sure you have a clean brush, and you want to dab it as well. And then you might need to mix in water based on how thick your gouache is. Sometimes mine is pretty thick, you know, for what I want to do. And I just want to add in like a little bit of kind of that foaminess that happens on the shoreline and also defines the shoreline a bit. Not necessary, but just wanted to do it. And, you know, it's an option. If you have it, if you don't have gouache, just skip this part. And, you know, no big deal. But I think it's just kind of fun. Can add a little bit more out there in the atmosphere. Some little waves or whatever. Some lakes, there's a lot of movement. In other lakes, there's stillness, right? So it's just really up to you what you want to do. This is your painting. You could even call this the ocean. Say, hey, this is an inlet, and there is an ocean around the corner. We just don't see it, right? It's up to you. So putting that in can be fun, even if you want to just do like some flowers too. You can even do a little bit of splatter on your right here for the flowers, for the ground. Just have a fun time. That's the big piece. I left a lot of white space, so I don't need to use the gouache for making highlights on the water. But if you didn't have a lot of white space, you could use it for that. Look at how easy this was. Boop, tape coming off. So this was a very fun activity. The tape is sticking all over. For me, I love doing landscapes on a smaller scale, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. Remember, using your big brushes as long as you can, and then, you know, you won't worry about putting details into every single thing. Thanks so much for watching this today. Friends, I'm really excited that we painted this together today. We do a lot of flowers on this channel, but then also adding in that nature part and focusing on the beautiful things that we can see when we're outside, getting fresh air is super important. It's calming to our nervous system, and I think it enhances our practice as well. I wanted to mention that my watercolor brushes did launch, and if we still have some sets available, there were only 300, then link below will be the place where you can find them to purchase them as well. And I still have a few more spots open for my art retreat at this point. There's only 3, so if you'd like to sign up, click the link below. Also look at the link below for any free watercolor classes that I might have coming up on Mondays. Anyway, as always, I wish you happy painting, happy mental health. See you soon.